Hey, look at us. We are doing another show. It's been another couple of weeks, mostly all my fault.
But we are
Um,
here. We
and
are
of
getting
course,
back
the second
together.
you pushed go, my computer screen froze. Are
Oh,
you still there?
I'm here. Yeah, that was perfect. Perfect timing. That's
Okay,
exactly how it
could you
goes. We've
hear
been
all of
talking for
that?
like 10 minutes. Everything's been going great. As soon as we push go, your stuff freezes.
So, so the last couple of weeks we've been out. My fault. The first time was so it's like 3 weeks, I guess. So the first time I was in Colorado, I got my new Breckenridge shirt
Breckenridge
here,
shirt.
uh, and then and then we got back on Saturday, and then I just plain forgot about about the show. And then the next weekend, I had a coaching school, and coaching school is an interesting thing. So basically, it's the in Texas. You have what's called the THSCA, which is the Texas High School Coaches Association, and basically, for this convention, 15,000 coaches descend upon San Antonio, Texas, with about, I'd say, 80% of them being football coaches. Um, and so um, it's uh it's an experience, man. It was my first time ever going. I've been doing it for like 8, 9, 10 years, something like that.
So it's a total sausage fest. That's what you're saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um however, um however, it's mostly football coaches, I'll be honest with you, but they're trying to grow it, and it's trying to be more are trying to be more inclusive, not only just to like basketball, soccer, softball, baseball, etc.
Track. All together. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're trying to have be more inclusive, which is why it's grown from um, about like there are 23,000 coaches in the state of Texas that are involved in this. Like I said, 15,000, 14 or 15,000 coaches went to this convention, and they normally, I mean, there are football talks, and then there are things that we can go and learn and whatnot, but they're trying to add more, so they have lots and lots of sessions for, like I said, softball, lots of sessions for um, basketball, girls basketball, boys basketball, what have you. This year was the first year they had like an actual court set up in the convention where they could go over like drills and stuff. I don't know, man. It was pretty fun. It was an experience. I will definitely go again. Um, I took the wife. It was kind of a funny deal. I was like, we almost got into a fight about it. I told her about it like 3 months ago, and then I was like the week of, I was like, hey, you remember I'm going this weekend to coaching school in San Antonio? And she was like, no. I was like, well, it was on the calendar. And needless to say, that didn't go over well.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so, uh, so anyway, she got over it, I guess, and then texted me the next day. She's like, "Hey, what if I came with you?" And I was like, "Well, we're gonna have to pay for our own hotel room because the school's paying for mine, but I have to share with two other dudes. So, if you and the kids want to come, like, we have to pay." She was like, "Okay, let me think about it." And then, of course, last minute, she was like, "Okay, we're doing it." And so I was like, "Okay, understand that I am going for work. I will not be able to help with the three children in a new city. Just please understand that." She's like, "I got it." And then so we went, and it was great for me because I was like, hung out with the bros, came to the hotel room, hung out with the kids, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll do this again. This is fantastic." She's looking at me just, hair frazzled with like, "Never again."
This is a terrible idea.
I was like, "Man, we should all do this. Let's all bring,
This is great. It's great. That's
have all the coaches bring their wives. This would be fantastic."
We could all go out and party afterwards, bring the kids with us, and have an evening at Six Flags.
Fuck you, this is great. So anyway, here we are. Like we've said from the beginning, this has been this has been kind of when we can get to it. We have you have toes, and we have full-time jobs. You might have muted yourself on there.
Yeah, I muted the recording. That's what it was.
Yeah. We have full-time jobs. We have families. I have 1,000 kids. So this is kind of when we can do it. Anyway, here we are. We have some great topics on board today. Big time topics that we're going to discuss. So, you want to jump right in?
Big stuff. You wanted to start with the poll, correct?
Right. So,
let me see if I got this set up correct.
Either right before I went to Colorado or right after, I saw this poll, and it's talking about like it says right there, America's continued move towards socialism. And I think it's really interesting because, and the reason that I think is interesting is because we get an inordinate amount of propaganda, anti-socialist propaganda, just blasted at us 100% of the time, right? Like it's just constant.
Mm-hmm.
But yet its popularity is still growing. I'm old, so I'm on Facebook, right? And I'm telling you, the amount of people that have no idea, one, what socialism or Marxism is astounding. But it's basically anything that I don't like is Marxism. But anyway, one thing that I found kind of interesting was I was looking at the poll, and interestingly, from 2019 to 2021, the positive views towards socialism between 18 to 34-year-olds actually dropped from 55 to 51%. However, the 35 to 64-year-olds and the 65 and up, that number increased in favorability towards socialism from 2019 to 2021. But the other thing that I found very interesting. So overall, because it did capitalism and socialism, right? So overall, still very positive towards capitalism. 57% of the country, this is all age groups, have a positive view towards capitalism, 36% negative. Between 18 and 34-year-olds, a positive view towards capitalism is at 46%. I'm sorry, the negative view towards capitalism is at 46%, and the positive is at 49%.
Yeah.
Which I also found.
Here's the numbers broken
really,
down.
really close. It was a 20-point swing from the 2019 poll when it was 58% positive, 38% negative. And now it's almost 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
I found that very, very interesting.
We were talking about this, my wife and I, last night. We were talking about what we were, going to discuss, what our topics were going to be this morning. And I mentioned this poll, and she asked a question of how do they ask, how do they say it? So I mentioned, I think they just said, do you have a positive or negative reaction to the word socialism? And like I could remember that they just asked, like, if you hear the word socialism, do you have a positive or negative reaction? You know. And she's like, oh, so they weren't asking like social programs or whatever else.
I lost you. I lost that. I heard
it was the distinction between were they asking about social programs or were they asking about like socialism as an economic policy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm gonna bring up the Richard Wolff debate because it's the best example I've ever seen of a proponent for socialism that like can't make up his mind about what it is.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that was really annoying.
And so, if by definition you're looking at it as an economic policy, that's not what's being portrayed. That's not what's being pushed. You and I have both come to the agreement that a social policy is not socialism, because socialism is strictly an economic policy by definition. Social policies have because of both Democrats and Republicans, people on the left and the right, have created this idea that Medicare for all is socialism, right?
Right.
And it's not. It's a strong social policy that, you know, takes its roots from the people who promote that, but it's not socialism. It's not the economic policy.
But I think to that,
you're closer in saying about your worker co-op stuff to creating an actual socialistic policy than you are by creating more government programs.
But I think to that, because the right-wing pundits and whatnot have been hammering home that this policy, whatever, is socialism, that people are finally like, well, if that's socialism, fuck it, I'm a socialist.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, because they're like, oh, okay, fine. Because
I'll be a socialist, whatever.
The reality is, and I was looking at this, if you look at policy, okay, left policy, the majority of people agree with left policy. The majority of people want to raise the minimum wage. The majority of people want to raise taxes on the rich and the corporations. The majority of people now, oddly enough, are for a UBI. They want to end the wars. They are in favor of Medicare for all. Like those policies are very popular among regular people.
Do you remember where for 4 years wanting to end the war was a right-wing policy? Like, it was pretty recent. It was pretty recent where, like, you know, for a 4-year period, wanting to end the wars was a right-wing policy.
Oh, I know.
And all the people on the left were like, no, we need to stay in Syria. We need to stay in Afghanistan. Because they were so goddamn petty that they couldn't let a bad guy they hated do a good thing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
You know, it's the thing. Okay, so why? Let me ask you this:
Sorry,
why do you think?
I'm irritated about that one.
No, I know it's so stupid. Why do you think that socialism is on the increase and has been for the last, I don't know, 5-10 years?
Well, you mentioned propaganda, and I'm gonna do you one better. Hollywood propaganda has been pumped out ad nauseum since the 50s, right? I mean, you can strictly trace, like, so the amount of money that, like, a Biden campaign spent, whereas like $6 million last year just for the campaign ads. That's what the Soviet Union spent in Hollywood for like 50 years, okay? From like the 30s and 40s up through the 80s and the final collapse of the Soviet Union. So, like,
okay, give me an example of what like a Soviet topic would be.
Oh, let's see. Back in the day, it would have been
or no, just let's talk about last 10 years or so.
The movie Trumbo.
Who?
The movie Trumbo was about a communist writer who was blacklisted by his own people, no less. But yet that propaganda was actually changed to, like, well, he was actually blacklisted by Senator McCarthy, who we've already discussed, never held a committee on Hollywood ever.
Broke up again.
So the movie Trumbo is about a guy who was blacklisted during the Hollywood, House Un-American Activity Committees, right? And the movie goes on to talk about how McCarthy was at fault. So Senator McCarthy held hearings in the House. I'm sorry, that's a fabrication. That's propaganda. That's a lie. That never happened, right? Mm-hmm. Because
okay, so
the dyed-in-the-wool blue dog Democrat who actually led the House House Un-American Activities Committee, Mr. Donald Brewer, I think was his name, never, like he and McCarthy didn't talk. So, like, all of that is propaganda, right? The idea of McCarthyism was propaganda.
McCarthyism is propaganda?
The idea that he held House hearings is a lie. Because he was a senator. So, like, it's so easy to spot if you just, like, take a step back. Joseph McCarthy was looking for people in the United States military. How could Senator McCarthy hold hearings in the House over Walt Disney Writers Guild? Like, so that's again, propaganda. That's a lie. Straight up. So that's been going on for 60 years, 80 years, like however long that was, right? God, what year was that? Yeah, so 70 years. Because Walt Disney went before the House Un-American Activities Committees in like 56 or something like that. Like Walt Disney, the man, not the company.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So McCarthyism is fake?
I'm saying what your understanding is, and what most people's understanding is, and what the media puts out as what McCarthyism is a lie. So yeah, it's fake. Yeah,
because
it's if you
because they say House hearings instead of Senate floor hearings.
Yeah, and because he never ever he never brought forward anyone from Hollywood. All the blacklisting, all the blackballing, whatever else they wanted to say about it, never happened from Senator McCarthy. It never came out of the Senate. The Senate was looking at the military. That's what they cared about.
Let's see.
And you know why it really got really bad for
the primary targets of McCarthyist prosecution were government employees, prominent figures in the entertainment industry, academics, left-wing politicians, and labor union activists. Suspicions were often given credence despite inconclusive and questionable evidence. So this is saying regardless of who the person was that was persecuted.
Right, because they could
it's
not put
Senator
it as
McCarthy,
Brewerism
but it's
because
still
he was a Democrat.
McCarthyism.
They could not call it Brewerism because he was a Democrat. The guy who started in the House and said, hey, these movies and this stuff over here is unacceptable. We don't need the Workers' Party.
Was that after
manifesto.
McCarthy had already started this business, or did he start it? Did Brewer start it?
Which one came first? You got it right in front of you.
See, I don't, because Brewer's not under McCarthyism. Let's see. J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. Yeah. Origins. President Harry S. Truman, Executive Order of 47, required that all federal civil service employees be screened for loyalty. The historical period that came to be known as the McCarthy era began well before Joseph McCarthy's own involvement. Many factors contributed to McCarthyism. First Red Scare of 1970 to 20, mostly because widespread social disruption. Yeah. Doesn't say. I'm looking for your guy's name. It doesn't even bring up anybody named Brewer.
All right. So Joseph McCarthy.
Senate Internal Security Subcommittee and the Senate Permanent Subcommittee on Investigations. 109 investigations were carried out by these and other committees of Congress.
1953. 1938.
I don't know. All right, we're getting off topic. I don't care.
Roy Brewer. Sorry. It's Roy Brewer. This guy. That's the guy you're looking for.
Okay.
In any case.
What did he do?
He was the guy who really led the charge into Hollywood. Like, that was the guy. Roy Brewer was the head of the House Un-American Activities Committee. He was a union man. He was an old Democrat. And he went after the Writers Guild.
How you be a union man going after the Writers Guild? At any rate, my point is,
all of that
nobody
is
wants
propaganda.
Trumbo.
So you're talking about propaganda, but it doesn't matter, because you can sit down and you can watch a TV show, and for 5 minutes, 45 minutes of entertainment, they'll give you their 5 minutes of their propaganda, and you're like, well, that's an acceptable rate. I don't have to be preached at for the whole episode at least, but I'll take a good 5 minutes of it. So the propaganda is in everything, and everybody's putting it out, right? And it's all a matter of how you adjust to it. What I think the real cause of it is ignorance. What is socialism? And most people, when they talk about socialism, I've already said this, think of social programs. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And not socialism as an economic policy. And I think that comes both ways. Like you said, the Republicans have been saying, this is socialism. And the Democrats are saying, well, we want to give you these programs, and it's like, hey, this would be good. Don't you want to be a good person? This is a good thing. And I think it's all naive altruism, but that's the way it goes in. I think the real world doesn't work a lot of the ways that they're saying it should.
So, on one hand, I agree with you, but on the other hand, I will say that I think it's because capitalism is failing the majority of Americans. And I would argue that what is happening in America is exactly what capitalism is designed to do. It is designed for control and money in the hands of a few. It is not designed to be fair competition or true competition or government intervention so that you have true competition. That's not, to me, that's not capitalism, right? Capitalism is doing what it is designed to do. It is designed to increase. It is designed to continue to grow. It is a growth design economic system. And it is designed to help people continue their own growth, right? And so they're going, if you have rich people, you have to have poor people. If you're going to continue to grow your own wealth, somebody's got to be poor.
Do you think that class hierarchical structure can ever be truly destroyed? Do you think we'll ever have a society that doesn't have some sort of structure and hierarchy in it?
So I've already been over that, but let me continue. Okay. I think socialism is gaining traction because people are suffering, especially the young people. Millennials right now, us, are entering the age where it is going to be too late for them to save up enough to retire. They're I'm 40, right? I'm at the very crest of the start of millennials. And so millennials are starting to turn 40, and there are a lot of these people that don't have enough saved up to retire. Okay. They've lived through, not they, we have lived through 2 once in a lifetime fucking bus cycles. And so the savings, or any that they've had, have gone ass up. So don't have any savings, let alone enough to retire. Laws and policies since the baby boomers' birth have been geared towards them, leaving nothing left for the younger generations. But, I mean, it is what it is. Like, people want something different. It's the shit ain't working for them. And I mean, at the end of the day, they're like, whoa, what do we got to do? Fucking socialism? Fine. Somebody, this has got to change, right? I mean, I haven't really studied that one thing that said that the wealthy have stolen over like $50 trillion from the bottom 90%.
Yeah. Oh,
I haven't really got into that.
Yeah.
Oh no, like over the past 50 years since the 1970s.
No.
But let me say this. Let me just add. Material well-being is king. At the end of the day, people want to be. They want a house. They want somewhere to live. They want a car. They want to work their job, and they want to take a fucking vacation. That's what people want, right? I've said it over and over. People want. Whoever's going to give that to them is who they're going to vote for. The stimulus checks prove that the government can help regular fucking people. People were like, holy shit, you guys can just give us checks and get me out of this hot water that I'm in. This is great. The government can be a force for good, but you have to demand it. And so I think that is where ideally it's headed, because it's like, we can demand more of these fucking people and quit accepting the fucking status quo. That's how I feel about it. But I think, I mean, money hasn't been trickling down. It trickles up. It has been bad for a long time, and young people are going into this workforce, and it's just not working for them. Rent is $1,500 anywhere you go. Minimum wage is $7.25. You can't rent an apartment by yourself.
Why are the cities emptying?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, never mind. Population in most major cities is declining right now. People are moving out to either the suburbs or rural countrysides.
Because it's too expensive to live.
Yeah, Austin's
it's too expensive to live.
People.
The reason I moved to the suburbs because I couldn't fucking afford it. I mean, that's bottom line. For what I could get, a 4-bedroom house in the suburb would be the same as a 1-bedroom studio apartment in Dallas, Dallas proper. I can't. I got kids.
Yeah.
That's why. It's too expensive. Gentrification. What the fuck ever you want to call it, it's too expensive to live in the city.
I agree. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's I A, I hate traffic. B, I hate it so much.
Me too.
It's about what I like, quality of life expectations, right? Like, do we buy a brand new house and do something like, how you prioritize it? What are decisions you make for this? What's important that you go out and spend $7,000 on? Like, oh, if your AC breaks in Texas, your house is broke. Like,
Yeah,
burn it
so
down. It's done. It's broken.
That's
The
what
house is
it's
broken. All right. It's too hot in the summer to not have an AC in Texas.
have you ever had no AC like in
Yeah.
the summertime?
Yeah. In Waco.
You there?
Yeah. We you remember that crappy little house we were living in that you came to see us in, that big one on 8th Street?
Yeah.
It was like 3 blocks away from the highest murder rate area in Waco. Yeah. So
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
so that house for that summer that we first were there had no air conditioning back in my bedroom. And so I was like sleeping on the couch that whole summer because I just couldn't live back there.
Couldn't even.
I didn't even take a shower. Like you would take a like if you went back to that side of the house to take a shower, in my shower, you would just like rinse off and you get out and you'd be wet until you walked back up to the front because you were just started sweating again. Like it was disgusting.
We ours went out and the repairman couldn't get there for like 2 days, and so
We're going to hotel, kids. Pack it up.
we packed up and went to a hotel. Nope, not for
That
me.
house is
I'm
broke.
out.
Yeah. So like, I get it, right? And there's that's a cost of being a homeowner, right? You know, like
Yeah.
at some point, this thing is gonna break. I'm gonna have to pay to fix it. If the roof comes off, I mean, what? That's house insurance. That's homeowners insurance.
Right.
So that deductible's like 10%, 17 grand.
But even then, most roofing companies will eat the deductible.
Oh, yeah.
Like they don't even care. They get paid so much money to do a roof based on cost. Like when I was selling roofs, we ate the deductible every time. It didn't matter. Like
that deductible is 17 grand. Yeah, well, that's fine. We'll eat that. We're gonna get $179,000 from your insurance company, so we don't
grand.
care.
We're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But to my point, you got 40 years of wage stagnation.
Here's what you were talking about.
You have rising inequality, gigification of all aspects of economic life. How is a different economic system not going to be more popular?
Yeah, I think what you're talking about specifically is this right here. Do you think the evidence for capitalism as an economic system is now better, worse, or about the same when compared with 50 years ago? And again, here's I think is the kicker is this question asks about socialism as an economic system. And so this question is very specific to distinguish between socialism, the word, which is connotated to a million different things, and socialism as an economic system. This is still leading category as worse. It's not as bad as this one, which is your capitalism in certain demographics. You know, like this 18 to 24, capitalism is way worse than socialism. But for these others, it's about the same.
Yeah, well, it's not going to change for them, right? You know, most people by the age of...
I draw the distinction between socialism as an economic system versus what sometimes socialism is called, which is socialist policies, which does have, as you've pointed out, a very positive view against the majority of Americans.
Well, because those policies help people. And at the end of the day, people are suffering. I was looking at this article this morning before you sat down, and basically restaurants, it's kind of funny. So people that left the restaurant business, they either got fired or they quit or whatever.
Laid off, yeah.
Over half of those people say they're never going back. And they're like, the pay is crap, there's no benefits, customers are shitty, fuck that shit, they're not going back.
Good. That's the whole reason I never went back to working at a restaurant.
Because it sucks.
It sucks. And it was a great job for being in college, but like after like 3 months of doing it, I knew I never wanted to put myself in a position to live off of other people's generosity. To live off of other people's generosity. Because people suck. Some people are cool. Most people suck.
I lost you again.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, I got you now. I heard to live off of other people's generosity.
Yeah, I never want to put myself in a position where I live off of someone else's generosity. And that's like, I want to do it myself. I want to go out, I want to earn my shit and know that this is what value I bring to whatever, right? Like, and so working as a waiter, I don't have a value to the people who are employing me. My value is in bringing food to this table over here, bringing a drink to this table over here, and whatever they decide, that's worth to them. It has no inherent, like, rate. It has no inherent whatever. Like, the tip system sucks for waiters. I'm sorry. Like, it.
Well, I told you my one experience in the restaurant business, right?
Do what? I'm sorry.
I told you about my one-time experience for 3 hours at the restaurant business.
You went in, nobody would train you or anything. They were just like, yeah, I think you did.
Yeah, and they got yelled at.
You got yelled at, and you were just like, nope, I'm done.
I'm
I don't
out.
have time for this.
So basically what they're saying is basically there was like this unplanned, unorganized general strike of all restaurant staff. You know, here's the reasons I'm not coming back. Rude customers. Rude bosses. Can't get a break to just go smoke a cigarette. You got to inhale your meals on the go. Crazy schedules. Stagnant pay.
Yeah, no, it sucks. And
So-
you know what's funny is, like, when I was there, I told you, like I'd been there for like 2 months, right?
Mhm.
And here I am, like this college kid working, and there's like they brought in like summer help because this is a big tourist restaurant there in Galveston. And they had like chicks from like Moldova and like Eastern Europe. Excuse me. That's gonna be loud. Sorry to your eardrums, listeners. All 5 of you. Anyway, so they had people from all over the world, but like they had also had their routine staff, and there were like 40, 50-year-old dudes working there with the 30-year-old ladies who'd been there for like 10 years since they were 18, you know, and here I am, this like 20-year-old kid, and they give me like the 2 4-tops and the big 8, you know, and at this restaurant they only gave you like a maximum of 3 tables, 4 if they were understaffed, right? So like you never had a huge workload, but you were expected to like be on top of everything perfectly.
Okay.
And
With that.
and so I remember like overhearing when they assigned me my tables at the start of the shift, this one lady like got really mad. She was like, "You gave the big table to Rob. What is this? Like he just started." And I remember overhearing it saying like, "Well, you messed up like 6 orders yesterday, and he hasn't messed up anything since he started. So yeah, he's gonna get the good table, or whatever." And so like, to me, I'm thinking like, that's cool. Like this is a lot of extra money to me. And then on the other hand, I'm like, that's like half her nightly paycheck, like right there,
Yeah.
that one table. I made like $400 that night. Cool, you know. She missed out on that. And that's her life. I'm just working here for like the summer job.
Wow.
And so it's, yeah, no, it's, and I never really thought about that, you know, at the time. But yeah, no, like, but I hated it. I hated waiting tables. I hated being forced to, you know, basically have my value determined arbitrarily at the end of the night. Because, you know, you could kick ass on a table. You could always have their stuff ready. Everything comes out perfect, you know. you're selling them the desserts, bringing them all their drinks, talking to the bartender, getting their stuff out ready early, you know. And then it's like, here's 5%. We just spent like $250.
Broken again.
Anyway, let's move on. I don't know. I think you have a lot of validity in the argument of like it's not working, and I think corruption again is more. I'm going to go back to that. Is inherent, and the systems that we have today are so old and archaic that they haven't changed, they haven't reformed in 60 years, and they've just been amalgamated into these giant amorphous blobs that really aren't able to help and do the things that they need to get done. And the insurance in this country is one of the biggest contributors to that. Taxes are another one, you know. Wife asked me yesterday, it was like, hey, would you support a flat tax rate? And I said, absolutely, 100%. Everybody pays the 15% no matter what. And if you want to do separate business taxes like we have now, you know, I don't know if you know this, you are in private business, but like businesses have to pay taxes quarterly and not on an annual basis like most individuals, right? Mm-hmm. And so like if you want to do 15% business tax on the quarter, like whatever your earnings are, 15% off the top, right there. How much more money would the country have?
Yeah.
And you'd be able to fund a lot of these things. And you'd lose the overhead by firing everybody in the IRS.
Yeah. But that's assuming that there's no write-offs, there's no tax incentives.
Absolutely none.
No, nothing.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. That. I want none of that. 15%, period.
Huh.
That's a flat tax rate.
I think you should tax the rich. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, that would happen too. There's no more write-offs. Period.
No, I think it fucking, let's just say 50 million, 100% tax. Fuck you. That's what I think.
Yeah, you would. I want to owe like $1 million in taxes at some point in my life. I think that'd be great.
I just want to be able to, at one point in my life, refer to my cottage and not have the word cheese attached to it. That's how rich I want to be.
Yeah. You're not going to get there under the socialism.
Oh. That's fine.
Let's talk about education. Let's move on.
We beat socialism to death. Okay, education. Texas, fucking the nation over. We are following in the footsteps of the crazy bastard in Florida, and I think Wisconsin. There's another crazy fucker up there. But lucky for us, in our Constitution, we have to have a quorum in order to pass any legislation, and the Democrats have fucked off. So we're gonna be okay. That's what I think. Anyway,
how many more times is Governor Abbott limited to calling his special sessions?
Yeah, I don't know.
There isn't one. There's no limit to the number of special sessions the governor of Texas can call. Now,
like
is he
in DC for the next 2 years, huh?
Is he a weak bald bastard who like 2 representatives have already come back after he said he was going to have the sheriffs meet him at the border of Texas and go arrest him? That didn't happen.
Yeah, of course it wasn't going to happen.
No, that didn't happen.
Okay, so what I wanted to talk about was the stuff on education, because it kind of goes back into the last episode that we did over CRT. Because ultimately, I read through the bill, and it's
which bill? Because again, there were 2.
The SB3,
you had a House version and a Senate version.
Yeah, SB3.
SB3. Okay.
So, I read the bill. It wants to. You can't say that one race or sex is inherently superior to another race or sex. That's cool. An individual, by virtue of individual's race or sex, is inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or whether consciously or unconsciously. So that's right out of Robin DiAngelo's fucking writings, which, agreed, is fucking stupid. An individual should be discriminated against to receive adverse treatment solely or partly because of the individual's race or sex. Okay. An individual's moral character, standing, or worth is necessarily determined by the individual's race or sex. Okay. An individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, bears responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex.
For clarity, these are things that the teachers cannot teach.
Right.
You cannot teach that an individual, by virtue of the individual's race or sex, yada, yada, yada.
Individuals should feel discomfort, guilt, or anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of the individual's race or sex. So those are all Robin DiAngelo. You can't say these things. Okay?
This one, I think, was from BuzzFeed or Huffington Post.
It goes on to say,
the next
meritocracy or traits such as hard work ethic or racist or sexist, or were created by members of a particular race to oppress members of another race. So, all of that, like I said, is out of the mind of Robin DiAngelo, and yeah, you probably shouldn't say any of that. However, who the fuck was saying that? Then it goes on to say, the advent of slavery in the territory that is now the United States constituted the true founding of the United States. You can't say that shit either. So,
the 1619 Project was called out specifically by name.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So, this is how it's supposed to say. With respect to their relationship to American values, slavery and racism are anything other than the deviations, betrayals of, or failures to live up to the authentic founding principles of the United States, which include liberty and equality. Now, I take issue. And my issue is this. The United States would not have been as powerful, we would not be our own country. We would not have gone after the British had they not had the cash crops that were picked, farmed, planted, reaped by slaves. None of those rich motherfuckers would have ever gone to Philadelphia because they wouldn't have been wealthy enough to form a rebellion. I'm saying, oh shit. Slavery and tobacco saved this country. Slavery and tobacco are the two things in this country that made it possible for us to even have the ability to write the Constitution, to declare independence from the British so that they could not pay taxes to the British. It had fuck all to do with blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's great. All this sounds great. But at the end of the day, they didn't want to pay taxes. So, yeah. Anyway. teach, instruct, or train any administrator, teacher, or staff of a state agency, school district, or open enrollment charter school to adopt the concept listed under paragraph A, or require an understanding of the 1619 project, may not be construed to apply a student's participation in community charitable projects, such as building community gardens. Am I still on?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm frozen. Volunteering at local food banks, service or other service projects. I think it's basically saying, like, you can't, like, make somebody do that shit for a grade.
Yeah, you can't make them do that shit for a grade or for extra credit. That's in here. You can't make them. You can't make them like do. You can't make kids volunteer for your pet project, and you can't make kids lobby government officials.
So where the left is freaking out, the bill removes a teaching requirement about the history of white supremacy and the ways that it was wrong. Removes a dozen curriculum.
This right here. This is the strike list.
Right. It removes a dozen curriculum requirements, including the history of white supremacy, including but not limited to the institution of slavery, the eugenics movement, and the Ku Klux Klan, and the ways in which they're morally wrong. You removed historical documents related to civic accomplishments of marginalized populations, documents related to the Chicano movement, women's suffrage, and equal rights in the civil rights movement. Jim Crow laws.
The only thing left
just
in this list
it's just a deviation
Frederick
from what
Douglass.
America is, and Frederick Douglass, of course, because Frederick Douglass was July 4th to a slave.
What?
I'm just saying, Frederick. You can't say that the writings of Frederick Douglass. There's not enough. It paints white people in a bad light, and you can't make somebody feel guilty for being white.
They did remove his newspaper, but not his biography, his autobiography. So this was removed from required reading. The writings of Frederick Douglass's newspaper, The North Star, but not the book. So all these things were what was removed from the required reading. Also included are George Washington, Ona Judge, Thomas Jefferson, writings of any other founding persons of the United States. And then all the things you said. So why is that? Why were those things included? I'm asking.
What do you mean?
Well, if the argument you're making is that they removed all these things that are, all these requirements that were listed out as like, here's the essential knowledge and skills, blah, 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 blah. That's what this document is, right? This kind of governs what the test is going to be over and what people have to know about. Is that accurate?
No.
Okay. What is this document?
I don't know. Okay. Well, I don't know the point, because essentially here's what happens in the state of Texas. The Education Board of Education writes out the essential knowledge and skills that are required for the United States or for their students.
And that phrasing is used in this document.
Essential knowledge and skills.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that is written out by the Board of Education. This is what we're going to test over. This is what it's going to be. Okay.
Yeah. Here it is, the essential knowledge and skills. This is what is the guideline for the Board of Education.
So, they're not saying that you can't teach about those things. They're just saying it's not required.
Correct.
And here's my worry, okay? If you have all of these things that you're not allowed to talk about, that you're not allowed to say in a way to where it would make white people fucking feel bad. Okay? Now, textbooks and book companies and school districts will likely err on the side of caution. and they'll start leaving things out that have to do with racism or sexism. You have vague guidelines as far as what is off limits. They're going to say, you know what? Let's just not address that. And so then you have a whole generation of kids that have no idea about the shit that's gone on in this country. Are you still there?
Just froze. I've been hearing you.
Okay. So what is the point? Why do you want to do this? Why is it that the fucking Confederate statues are so goddamn important that you have to rally around them and you throw big fucking fits when people want to tear down the Confederate statues, but yet anything that has to do with actual history of this country, you're freaking the fuck out about? Why is history so important when it comes to those Confederate statues, but it's not important when it comes to Martin Luther King? It's not important when it comes to Jim Crow. It's not important when it comes to Susan B. Anthony.
Do you think that this bill has the potential to allow teachers a little bit more freedom in what they talk about? Obviously not, right? I mean,
No, I don't. I think it is, like I said, it's going to start with the textbook, and it may start with a test, right? And it's going to trickle down into the classroom where it's not going to be in the book, and a teacher would have to take their own initiative to say, we need to talk about this, right? Like I said, I learned at 39 years old what the Tulsa Massacre was. There are people in this country that don't even know what the Trail of Tears is. Because it's not taught.
The way this is written, and again, just the way this is written. So there's a couple of things in here. You could hand this to your history teacher friends as their ammunition for it or whatever. But so there was the line. I'm looking for the specific line in here where it talks about teachers. Here it is. A teacher cannot be compelled to discuss. You can choose to discuss, but you have to present all arguments, right? And so if you're talking about, say, the Constitution, which is still on this list as required reading, you can talk about the hours that James Madison spent up there arguing with the Constitutional Convention, saying look, if we're going to follow these ideals, and if these are the if we truly believe what we put in this document of the Declaration of Independence, then we have to free the slaves, we have to do these things, we have to do these things. And you can present the counter arguments of whatever the guy's name was. It's not George Wallace, but somebody like that, going up there and talking about how no, these are our property and this is it, and we are the great people, the white, saviors and everything else. And you can present those two arguments side by side. And you can just ask your class, which of these is the right thing? And to the best of your ability, you have presented the two sides of the argument. And you can do the same thing with the Tulsa Massacre. There's nothing stopping a teacher from doing that. Hey, there were these successful black businessmen who had Black Wall Street, and they were doing really well for themselves. And then, all of a sudden, here come a bunch of guys that go and massacre them. Which of these two people and groups had a moral standing? Which of you think, nothing about this precludes any of that? So I think your argument, while yes, it is a concern, it's also unfounded.
No, it's not. Because here's what happens. Okay, teachers are, their livelihood is based on what, how well their students do on a test. Okay?
That's a whole other argument that I think
no, it's not.
That we agree on is wrong.
But the fact of the matter is, right now,
yes,
the test is what is being taught. If it's not on the test, the teachers have to have some type of moral necessity to teach a certain topic. Like, if it's not going to be on the test, do we really need to talk about it? No, because, excuse me, they got to know this. They have to know these things because this is what's going to be tested on. This is how my livelihood is is how I get paid. And if they don't perform on these tests, I'm going to get fired.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where, you with me?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm reading. I'm looking at something.
That's where I think the problem is going to be. But my question is this: what is the goal? Why are we trying to whitewash history? Why not give the bloody truth? Is it because they think that white kids are too sensitive to learn about what actually happened? Do they think that white kids, when they learn that their ancestors were fucking assholes, that they'll develop some sense of guilt about what their forebears did? And then what do they think will then happen because of that guilt? Do they think, hey, we should be better people than what our ancestors were? Is that the scary part? That all of a sudden people will want to be better? What is the goal? Why is this important? That's really what I don't understand. Why is this so important that you have to have a special legislation in order to pass a bill like this? Because I don't get it. And I'm going to say this too, because this is another thing that just fucking chaps my hide. I am all about the sensationalization of this bill. I am all about making shit up. I don't even care if you just say they don't want us to talk about MLK. Sure, say that shit. I don't care, because maybe it really isn't as bad as the media is making out to be, but Republicans manufacture fucking bullshit constantly. CRT is not actually even being taught in schools. It's a grad level fucking thing. Nobody in a school is teaching CRT. It's not happening. That is a manufactured problem. And so all of a sudden they decided, hey, we should, this is our new attack point. So fine, this should be our attack point. You're fucking revising history. And again, why is this so important? I'm telling you.
Do you want me to answer that, or are you just going to ask rhetorical questions?
No, yeah, why? Tell me.
So, I think, again, this is just my opinion, but I think it's because the Republicans in the House and Senate and across other states, because it's not just Texas. In fact, I think Idaho has a bill that almost mirrors this one exactly. I think it's because they have realized that they have lost influence in the public education sphere. And I think this, if I'm at my least generous, all of this truly is a power grab to put themselves back in the schools. If I'm at my absolute least generous, right? They want control over what is being taught to kids. They want to take it back, and whether it's taking it back from the teachers or taking it back from the school districts or parent-teacher associations, like whatever it is, like they want that level of control about what is being taught in the schools, because they, for some reason or another, whether you agree with it or not, they don't like what they're seeing coming out.
So, it's interesting that you say this, because I just read this article this morning.
Again, that's my least generous point.
Should Texas teachers be required to post the lesson information for review? A bill that would mandate the online disclosure of teaching materials could be caught up in an unusual special session. So, educators are concerned about a burdensome bill that would require teachers to share information about their lessons online and are watching to see where it goes during this unpredictable special session. Republican lawmakers want educators to disclose information about their class materials and activities online, sparking concern about the added administrative strain and the purpose of such requirement.
100% supported. Let's make it happen.
So, Senator Bob Hall introduced legislation that would require teachers to disclose the information used in their lessons, which would then uploaded to a district website. Hall's office did not respond to Bob. If you're going to teach something, just let the parents know about it. I'm going to say this. The parents can already know everything. All they have to do is be involved. All they have to do is look on their child's fucking Google Classroom, maybe look up their fucking Skyward, maybe check in on their grades. All of that shit is readily available to an involved parent. You fucking piece of shit. An involved parent knows all of that. I know exactly what's going on in my kids' education. You know why? Because I talk to my fucking kids. And I can look up their classes online every goddamn day. All this is just what you said, which is a fucking power grab. Magically, parents are going to magically be involved now because you put some shit on a fucking website? No, that's not going to happen. That is for a power grab, which is exactly what you just said. That's what that is. That's what this is. And it makes a lot of sense now that you said that.
Can I turn you back down now? Sorry. I understand. This is a passionate topic for you.
But, and to add to that, my thought is that they're trying to shut down public education.
By making all the teachers quit?
Yes, they're trying to dumb down the masses. An educated population doesn't vote Republican.
I feel like we've been dumbing down the masses for a long time.
Right, this is the next step.
You know.
If you end public education, because
we're graduating kids that can't even fucking read, right? We're just pushing them through the system. Like the literacy rate coming out of some of the major metropolitan areas is less than 30%. Yeah. Literacy. They can't even fucking read. And yet we're graduating them. Teachers, school districts, the whole system is just pushing them through. There's no, hey, you failed. You can't read. You don't get to graduate. No, it's I want you out of my classroom. I'm sorry. You're a troubled child and I can't deal with you.
Actually, they don't graduate. They just, they age out.
Age out. Whatever. They can't fucking read when they leave high school. And they're pushed through whether they're from 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, by the time they finally fucking give up. Like, it's unacceptable. But it's not the teacher's fault if that happens to a kid. It's the systems.
It's an apathetic problem. Apathy.
It's like, nobody's perfect, and we do the best we can. That's why we have, like, procedural law, right? Like, because people make fucking mistakes. And so you are judged on the process. And the process has to be maintained, which is why people get off who are guilty on procedural errors. Because the process is what's important under justice. It's like, but like in education, we're no longer focused on the individual. Like you said, we're teaching to a test. Mm-hmm. And this test is this overarching standard that says, hey, we want the majority of people to meet this standard, and this is our arbitrary standard that we've set. We've determined these politicians who aren't educators determine that this is where it is.
Mm-hmm. And then you don't teach actual thought. And I think that's the issue, is you're not teaching kids how to think.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was watching my kids last night, and they're playing outside by themselves. I lock up the gate.
You got a new lock on the gate?
I'm frozen again.
Yeah, you're frozen, but I can still hear you.
Okay, so lock up the gate, and I kind of watch through the window. No, the little ones are 3 and almost 2. And so I'm watching them, and they're playing, and we got a little pool. You know, they're playing in the water, standing over it. And then I see them like go off through our, you know, my wife's jungle that she has back there. And they're kind of like, you know, exploring through there, and so I'm watching this whole thing, and I'm thinking to myself, this is fantastic. Free play, unorganized free play, not in front of a TV, not in front of an iPad, not in front of an electronic device, but going outside and playing for those 3 kids is probably more valuable than anything that I can structurally do for them right now at this age. Mm-hmm. They're out there, they're using their imagination. They've got their explorer hats on, and they're doing their thing, going through the secret garden. And I'm here to tell you there's not enough of that. There is not enough free play where the kids are allowed to use their imagination and have critical thinking skills. And it starts at a very, very early age. I don't know, man. Like, it's
here's a thought. So I just finished Oathbringer, right?
Okay. Yeah.
You okay? So there was a line in that book where I don't remember which character it was talking about it, but the line stuck with me. And it was said, it was something along the lines, I'm going to fuck it up, but it was like, the pursuit of excellence is not a group effort, but an individual one, or something like that. Like, excellence is for the individual.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can trace it back. And, people say, like, oh, America wasn't founded as a Christian nation, it wasn't founded on Christianity or whatever, but it's like, if you think about it in the terms of like historical meaning, the idea of the divine individual did not exist until the advent of Christianity. And it wasn't where the importance of the individual was manifestly incorporated into a society until America was founded, right? Because you had the mandates in the old country, in England or whatever. You had the right to rule, the divine mandate from God as whatever else for the monarchy. But it wasn't until that practice was really brought in to an ideal state. Well, not an ideal state, because obviously they still had slaves, but like the ideas were put into a founding document or a legislative document that focused on the individual and individual liberty until the Constitution was written. Like, that didn't happen. But I think all that traces back to like Christian roots versus...
I don't understand divine individual. What do you mean?
Well, in Christian faith, they talk about the divine spirit, and we are made in God's image. Everyone has 3 parts to them: mind, body, and spirit, such as the Holy Trinity of Son, Father, Holy Ghost. So, like, that idea that every individual was made in God's image and was, put on this earth for the purpose and yada yada yada. Like, that's what I mean by the divine individual, right?
Okay.
And so, like, that idea, and I think my biggest problem with the utilitarianism, right, is that it removes that philosophy. It removes the power of the individual.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Yeah. Am I here?
Okay, I got it.
So, like, utilitarianism, socialism as an economic policy, communism as an economic policy, it removes the power of the individual. And so it's always what's best for the group. And if we can improve the lives of a greater number of people by making these people suffer, then that's okay, because we've helped the greater good. Whether it's 51%, 70%, or whatever else, we've got bigger numbers over here, and it's a very utilitarian argument. And it removes the power of the individual. And I think this goes back to education, where we're talking about standards for the majority of people need to be able to be here, right? But not necessarily understanding that everyone's cognitive ability is different in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And so, like, yeah, you can have a standard, but you really need to teach to the individual. And that's hard. That's like the hardest thing you can do. And it takes more people and more funding and more staffing to really let those who can excel truly do so, and help those who are less inclined to the book smarts, if you will, like, find individual value, right? Like, I don't know. That shit's hard. And the more we move to groupthink, whether it's right or left, like, the worse off we're going to be. And so, like, the tribalism that we see right now, I think is just, like, one of the worst things to ever happen to this country. Where it doesn't matter the idea that you're putting out. Like I mentioned earlier, like, hey, it's a leftist policy to like, get out of wars, but yet when Donald Trump was trying to get out of wars, you guys were attacking him for it. What the hell? What's wrong with you?
Yeah. No, I agree. Democrats are also dumb.
I mean, I personally, I like, I don't know if you saw the meme I posted where it was like, I consider myself a right-wing, or I hate the Republicans, or something like that. And she was like, oh, you must be a left-wing individual, right?
And yeah, I saw that. You're a left-wing individual, right? I mean, I am.
You are. That was for me. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. And I will tell you this. Like, I'm curious to see how it goes, and I know there are concerns of litigation, right? And I think there's a key point, a key line in this law that will absolve a lot of that. And that line, we read it earlier, was to the best of your ability. It's very difficult to prove that you didn't do something to the best of your ability. If it's blatant and ridiculous, it's not.
I'm going to say this because I know that there's a lot of fear-mongering behind this legislation.
Yeah.
About left-wing teachers and whatnot. I am in the minority. Even in my majority-minority school, even like being in DFW, in the major metropolitan area, there ain't a lot of super lefties at the school. I'm gonna be honest with you. And and I keep my opinions to myself mostly at work because.
Well, you're still in Texas and you're not in Dallas proper either.
Correct. But like I said, it's still a majority minority school. We're still 75% poverty. Like we, it's not. I'm not exactly living in Allen, Texas here. My point is that yes, I live in Texas where these laws are taking place, where these laws are trying to be written. Who are they writing them for? Now, my class is a personal finance class. And one thing that I think a lot of people don't understand, and this kind of goes to your individualistic ideals. Individually, I will always push people, my students, whatever, to achieve to the best of their abilities in the system that we have. My attacks or my complaints are always to the system and to the institutions. Individually, I am going to really try and push people to achieve the most they can. This is one of the reasons I currently participate in the stock market. Even though I don't believe in making money for doing nothing without labor. But I live in this society. I live in this in this capitalist country. And so I'm going to do my best to be successful and provide for my family and do all of those things. And again, that's exactly what I would tell my students. These are the things that will help you get ahead. These are the things that will help you to achieve your goals, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know. Like, I just don't understand the point.
Of this law?
Yeah, one person said that, when you have a fire in the kitchen, you don't ignore it. You put it out before it spreads to everywhere else. Basically meaning that there's a chance that it maybe could be taught somewhere, and then it might catch hold and then spread to our white kids, and we can't have that. I don't know.
My wife asked me yesterday, because we were discussing this, and we discussed this for several hours, and this one and the other thing. And she asked me yesterday, she said, do you think that this bill will stop CRT? Or whatever, I forget her exact phrasing, but it was essentially like that. And I said, as it's written, this part here that you pointed out, this word for word, straight out of Robin DiAngelo's books, like, don't teach this crap here. If that's the goal, is to stop the most radical aspects or whatever you want to call them, most extreme aspects of this idea, to not teach it in schools, then yeah, it probably will. But is it going to have unintended consequences such that, all those things that they cut, which is on this screen here, this is the cut bill. All these things that they cut, Indian Removal Act, Thomas Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptist, Chicano movement, all the things that we mentioned, right? What unintended consequences are going to happen on top of this, right? Now, it probably wasn't covered very much in some of the articles you read, but there was a Houston representative for House Bill 3979, which is almost an exact mirror to this bill, right? This has got all the same stuff in it.
It's like 39, 79, 39.
I don't know if this is the right one.
No, 39, 79.
Yeah, 3979. I'm just making sure I have the latest version of it because they still have all of this stuff here in this bill.
It's still in it.
It's still in it. So it was SB3 that removed it. This one passed through the House, right?
Huh? Interesting. No, SB3 is I'm not showing up.
But it still has all the no Robin DiAngelo teachings.
So SB3 is the send back to that bill, from what I understand. So they passed that bill, sent it to the House or the Senate. The Senate created SB3 and is supposed to send that back to the House.
Right. And then if they pass it, then it goes to Abbott.
So the SB3 are the ones that, or the Senate is the ones who took all of that shit out. The House put all that in.
Well, it was already in. That was, in fact, it may have been.
I mean, that's part of that bill.
Back in, because if I look at the introduced, it's not in the introduced as it was originally written in the House bill.
So we're talking about Texas because we live here. You want to talk about the Ruby Bridges story?
I know nothing about it. I mean, you can talk about it.
So
I didn't look it up after you mentioned it yesterday.
So here's what happened. Tennessee Parents Organization wants to prevent students from learning about 6-year-old African-American girl named Ruby Bridges. So in Tennessee, I think a school district or a couple school districts, I don't know, we're using this book called Ruby Bridges Goes to School. It was written by Ruby Bridges herself. She was the first black child to attend an all-white primary school in Louisiana. She's in the first grade, 6 years old. And this girl went to an all-white school. She had there were teachers that wouldn't teach her. The mob and the crazy people, protesting, whatever, throwing stuff. They had to hire 4 marshals to come and bring, to keep her safe, keep her from dying. And then parents pulled their kids out of school, like all these white parents pulled their kids out of school. And so she had to have a special teacher. She's in a classroom of 1 in this all-white school by herself. She doesn't go to lunch. She doesn't go to recess because bad things can happen to her. Anyway, I kind of read up on her story. It's pretty bad. Now, I couldn't find what age level this book is being taught at. I assume it's upper elementary, so 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, somewhere in there. Okay, I don't know the level of reading. I couldn't find it. Anyway, the leader of the parents group objects to books about Ruby being included in the school curriculum, arguing that the mention of a large crowd of angry white people who didn't want black children in a white school too harshly delineated between black and white people and didn't offer redemption at its end. In other words, they don't think white children, can handle the truth if it doesn't have a happy ending. So I just don't. I don't know how you both sides that history.
No, it's messy and ugly. Like that's the thing. Like I've never like I don't like the idea of washing history, whitewashing history, cleansing history. I think that there are age appropriate things.
Agreed.
You know, like you don't need to teach grade school children that Catherine the Great loved her horses. You know, she really loved her horses. Like that shit's just not appropriate, right?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
teaching history
here's another
again
thing
isn't
that
it's
kind of
important and
bothers
it's
me.
I agree with you
Just
in,
in general. I get really irritated with how little I know about the rest of the world.
mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, like Russia in particular, like I know fuck all about the history of Russia.
Oh, it's pretty cool.
Well, I know because I've had to look it up in my older adult life. Um, but I mean, the Ottoman Empire, I don't really understand that. I mean, the majority of English history or my history was Texas history and US history. We get very little world history in our schools, in our public schools. And so my knowledge of what happened stems from us having parents that are history majors that know a lot more about the world than the average American. Um, and what research that I've done after. But I know for a fact that my education is very, very limited when it comes to anything outside of America. And that bothers me.
Do you think that how to phrase this question? Well, I'm basically saying like, so we have limited time to teach history, right? In schools, we've got to teach the maths and the biologies and the physics and the reading courses and the English courses, and you got to take a foreign language. You're probably going to take Spanish if you live in Texas. You might take French or German, you know. If your school offers 2 languages. A school in Texas that only they're gonna offer Spanish, right? Like, so you're gonna do that. So there's your 7 courses right there, right? And then you gotta have a PE credit of some kind. And so so there's 8. There's only 8 hours in a school day, and we got 8 classes here. How do you teach the history of the world on top of that?
Take out Texas history. I think you can do a unit on Texas history, not an entire year.
Oh man, I love that year, Texas history.
It's not even a tested subject.
Yeah, but all those kids need to know about the Alamo. It's important, damn it.
Well, you
know, I was laughing to myself. So we went to the Alamo when we were in San Antonio not that long ago.
I walked by it.
And well, we went in and did the thing, and it was all free or whatever. Well, we went in the chapel, so I think we bought tickets online for that, and they scanned us in. But anyway, so it was pretty cool. They were doing renovation on like the really cool area where the barracks were, So all that they're like digging out a bunch of stuff and finding stuff underground. And anyway, we couldn't go in there. That's not the point of the story. So I was in the gift shop, and I was looking at the book, standing at the register waiting to get checked out, and they had like escaping the Alamo, like overturning the myth of the last stand, the heroic last stand, or something like that. And so they had, I
That's
thought it was
interesting.
interesting that they were offering in the gift shop of the Alamo this book that was basically like dragging the history of the Alamo itself.
That's actually pretty cool. Honestly, like that's
And it
I
was
can
right
respect
next
that.
to like here's the heroic last stand of Jim Bowie or whatever it was. Here's this guy sick on his bed dying from pneumonia or whatever else who gets up to like fight and kill like five Mexican soldiers barehanded on his deathbed or something like that, right? Like so it's like
Yeah.
um yeah, no, I thought it was interesting. I found the answer to the question though.
I lost you again. Hello.
Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, gotcha.
So according to the Mary Sue, Ruby Ridge's Goes to School is used in K through 5 classrooms.
Probably not kindergarten. I'm gonna
So
guess.
at the oldest, it was 5th grade.
Okay.
Probably not kindergarten. You're right. That seems a bit much.
I mean,
Do
they're
you
still
kids know about
they're still
racism? Like
they're still learning. They're still learning their shapes and
letters,
letters.
you kids want
I
to know
would
about
say
slavery? Like,
I would say fourth to fifth grade, realistically. Like, I mean, but what the superintendent said that of the district that's been teaching it has been like, um, the kids are actually really reading it. They're really interested in it. Parents they've had a really good reaction from their students' parents. Um, and lots of he's had apparently they've had lots of positive feedback from their actual parents, not
mm-hmm.
from this parent group or whatever.
Right.
I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I've been looking at some TikToks and I've been looking at some other stuff. This is gonna sound interesting. I think that a lot of this discourse and a lot of these people that are being weird about how to say things and how to approach topics and why we should talk about stuff and this other stuff is like, I think they teach at white schools. Like, I, I don't think they're actually around any minorities. Like, I think that like a lot of this stuff is in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there was a TikTok the other day about this lady who was trying to talk to her kids about using slang and is it cultural appropriation to use slang and should she talk to her kids about it? And I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you, lady? Like, you must be at the whitest of white schools because I promise you at my school, no one gives a shit and we all talk the same. Even me. I gotta communicate somehow. Use the no caps and the and the you know that's dope and whatever. Like I use the slang because that's how they communicate and I've got to communicate to my students and we've got to figure it out together. And so at the end of the day, no one gives a shit.
You
Also,
just want to be the cool teacher.
Also, I've learned that if you don't like something, overuse it and they'll stop.
Dope. That's dope, dude. Dope. Like, no, coach, you're dumb. Coach, man, you're killing me.
I used to have a play that it was a go play. It's where all four goes, four verticals, and it was this, right? And so the first time I signaled this, the other team saw me doing. They're like, "Get back, get back!" So the kids came over, and I was like, "Okay, we got to change the signal for that play." They're like, just dab. I was like, really? They're like, yeah. I'm like, all right. And that was how we called the go play.
What's the signal? Oh, coach is over there making a fool out of himself. All right, guys.
We had plays that were like called cowboy, and I made him do the ride the pony.
Oh yeah.
To signal it in, just because I wanted to see them do it on the sideline.
The other coaches.
Like, yeah. Yeah. I was like, this is gonna be the signal. Anyway, are you there?
I'm here.
So anyway, yeah, that's really what I think. I think a lot of this stuff are like, a lot of this crap is coming from people that aren't actually around people of color. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the Robin DiAngelo type stuff, this weird white guilt type shit, are coming from people that live in the suburbs that really have no fucking clue what the actual struggles are day to day. Like they read a book and they think, oh, well, I've got to become an activist, but they really fucking don't know anything. And well, so they just make this shit up.
If you look at her texts, like she basically says like, I'm a racist and therefore all the other white people are racist too. Because I'm like, in her text, it's like, I'm uncomfortable when I enter a room full of black people. It's like, so you're absolutely right in your assumption. You didn't even know it.
It's funny. I am officially one of 2 white people on the entire coaching staff at my school now, and it's it's fun. It's fun. I actually kind of enjoy being the lone the
minority.
The minority. I'm having a good time. I went to the BCA, the Black Coaches Association party, with all my fellow coaches. It's a good time. I was like, they were like, let's go. I was like, I don't think I'm invited, guys. They're like, nah, I don't care. Come on.
Yeah, that's fine. It's funny you say that. I think I've officially, unofficially joined the Hispanic Latin America Association at work myself. So,
yeah.
They had a really good mentoring program, so I signed up for it. Oh, and the guy that I work with is Venezuelan, and so it's funny because he's Venezuelan and he's like, he agrees with me politically, so that we have lots of good conversations. About how terrible Venezuela is. And anyway, yeah, he really hates Maduro. I'm just gonna put that out there. Anyway, so yeah, he convinced me I needed to sign up for his network, and I was like, yeah, all right, let's go, let's do it. It's kind of the same deal. Like, are you sure I'm invited?
It's funny. I miss the Hispanic Coaches Association. There was another party they all went to, because we got like, I think we have 2 or 3 Hispanics on our staff, and so they all went to that party too. I had to leave, but they went and they had a good time. And we actually have an Asian dude on our staff, and there were a total of 4 at the convention. 4 Asians. We are very underrepresented in the coaching world. Asians, very underrepresented. There were 4 at the convention. We have, and 2 of them are from my town, from my district.
I mean, it's what, 3% of the national population? It's not higher than that. Asian.
Yeah,
Asian
but 3% of 15,000 at the convention is more than 4.
It's more. Well, you know, the joke was, I forget, who was it? It might have been like the comedian Joe Coy or whatever, talking about, I don't want to misquote him, but it was a Chinese comedian, and he was talking about like, man, the Chinese love soccer, and you would think that with a country of 1 billion people, we could find 11 guys who are good at it. It's not even that many. Right? I need 11. We have 1 billion. We can't do it. We suck. He's like, I think it's because we have such short legs.
Probably. Well, man, those Germans are big, dude. Like the German, and especially the German style of soccer is very aggressive, and they're huge.
Well,
like
yeah.
they're. You still with me?
Yeah, I hear you. It's been doing that, but I haven't lost sound yet.
Okay, so yeah, the Germans, the Dutch are fucking big too, man. And they play. Their defense is so like mean.
Have you been watching the Olympics?
I have not. Yesterday, I caught up on some shows. It was glorious. I told you I binge watched the new He-Man. That's fucking awesome. You gotta watch it. It's so good.
I've added it to the list.
Were you a He-Man fan, or were you too young when that was out? Because that was my jam.
That was your jam, and I remember I had all your old toys.
Okay, yeah. Had Battle Cat and
had the Battle Cat and He-Man and
He-Man. Yeah,
I think we had a Skeletor as well.
Yep.
So
we never had the castle.
We never had the castle.
I
we never
really,
had any
I
of
really
the
regret
supporting characters.
I really regret not having Castle Grayskull. That shit was dope.
Yeah.
See how I just said that?
I got you, man. I got you.
But, man, the new one, I'm telling you, it's written for people our age. Like, it's so good. Like, it's only 6 episodes, and I watched it in, like, while I was doing laundry. Of course, I had the laundry chair was up to the window.
Right. You had a lot of clothes to fold. You're standing there for a minute,
a while. So, and I don't want to do it when I get home from work. I don't want to do laundry. Anyway, there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. You're not a person that's like, oh, well, the KKK was Democrats. That's not you, right? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry.
That's not in my notes. Oh. If you're anti-Antifa, does that mean that you're pro-fascist?
Everything is fascist.
Where? Okay.
Let's see. You were talking about... Oh, that's where you talked about He-Man. Ruby Bridges. White Redemption. Vaccines?
1/5 of our country believes that there are microchips in vaccines.
1/5? One in 5 people?
Like, really believe that shit.
I accept that if the government wanted to listen in, they could just turn this on or turn this little webcam on. My smart TV over there could listen in, I'm sure. Like, I think it's
all
got a
of my
microphone
little
function.
Alexa things.
But here's my rationalization for being okay with that is I'm boring as fuck. I go to work, come home, take care of my kid. Like, boring. So, yeah. For what purpose would they require a microchip with all of the rest of this stuff that we have?
Yeah.
It's far easier to get you.
Wow.
It's far easier to get you to carry around a recording device than for them to inject one into you. Like the rationalization for the microchip, it's dumb. Even if like you believe the worst, right? You're carrying around a recording device. It can send and receive messages. Like,
yeah, and they can track it all.
yeah,
They have access to all of it.
all of it. Facebook is watching where you shop.
So
like,
I fucking hate Jimmy Dore. And not because of his political anything. I really don't like him as a person. And it started.
Is that what you wanted to talk about? I really thought you wanted to talk about vaccines from your wife's suggestion. Not really? Okay.
I don't really care. I'm vaccinated. I just and I don't want to say this around her, but I just don't want to wear a fucking mask anymore.
Yeah. I'm not going to until I start seeing people exploding on the streets like goddamn meat balloons.
What do you mean?
Like I'm done. Delta variant, all this other stuff. I just don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. And there's no amount of television fear mongering, whatever, that's gonna make me care again ever. Until I start seeing people exploding on the streets like a meat balloon from some virus. I'm going to have to see the little giblets fly apart as their body combusts for me to care about this virus again. Yeah. Like, that's the point where I'm at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I don't know, man. Like, I just, I don't want to wear a mask. I have this nice beard, and when you wear a mask in the summer, it's fucking hot. So, I'm actually... And then, bruh, so I went to liberal-ass Colorado. I know that they voted for Boebert, and she's a fucking lunatic. That aside, even in Denver, I didn't see anybody wearing a mask. Literally no one. All over Colorado. In liberal as fuck Colorado. Nobody's wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Not even in the weed stores.
No, people don't give a shit anymore.
I'm like, huh. Y'all either, huh?
Yeah, this is pretty cool. All right. We homies.
I was like, y'all liberal motherfuckers. Yeah, even y'all. No, man, I'm telling you, it's. And I spend a lot of time outside, sweating, and my hot breath into my already hot face and my hot beard. No, it sucks. I hate it.
I also work outside quite a bit, and so they were like, hey, we need you to wear a mask outside. And I was like, nope, it wasn't in the guidelines when you initially rolled out. Here's phase 1 right here. It says outside, you never have to wear a mask. And then my boss was like, hey, we're going to need you to, make sure you're doing the right things and being safe and, wearing your mask, or we're going to have to, you might get sent home. And I was like, you're going to send me home for 2 weeks of vacation in the middle of this outage for the plant, and I don't have to be here and work it? and I pulled it off right in front of him. It was like, please, this sounds wonderful. And he was just like, get out of my get out.
Yeah. Jimmy Dore.
So, I think we're at last topic real quick. What do you got? Jimmy Dore's a piece of crap.
No, I don't have anything. You got anything?
I don't like that the Department of Justice has dropped charges on 5 Chinese scientists working in the United States with ties to the Chinese military. Oh, you didn't hear about that? I haven't corroborated it, but I did see that in a headline and said, well, that's a bunch of crap. Drops charges Chinese researchers. The Hill. Go away. Department of Justice drops charges on 5 visiting researchers from China. So these were people who worked in universities, my understanding. Accused of concealing ties to the Chinese military, including one who was detained last year after taking refuge in the Chinese consulate. Biomedical cancer researchers in California, doctoral candidates studying AI in Indiana, Tingwan. Yeah, so all these charges of basically espionage, research espionage, and other things were just dropped. We're not going to do anything with that.
It doesn't say why.
It doesn't say why. So
That's really weird.
that means it's political.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. So favors for favors and issues of national security and corrupt politicians. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't think that's a good thing. Yeah. Beyond that was the last thing I saw that really got me. Let's see, he's doing his stuff.
This basically looks like they're saying they weren't wrong, but they're saying that, like you said, favor for a favor.
So what did we get out of it?
They were, I don't know. They were charged with like stealing secrets and, reproducing American technology for the benefit of another country, and yada yada yada.
Don't do that. That's bad.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, like, Hunter is selling his artwork to wealthy overseas investors. So that's good.
Why not?
Why not,
Like, do you, Hunter?
Do you?
Apparently a huge dong having dude. Apparently. I haven't seen it, but that's what I hear. It's the word on the street.
It's the word on the street.
Hunter Biden will endowed.
Yeah. All right. Well.
One thing.
Okay. What you got? We got time. We got a minute.
It feels to me that Republicans are the only ones who get to be outraged. Now, I think, and this is my own personal opinion, but I think that the left, Democrats, are fucking weak. My microphone is falling. Okay. For example,
Weak. Right. Okay.
If January 6th had been Democrats, that is really noisy. If that had been Black Lives Matter, if that had been Antifa, if that had been somebody on the left, you know as well as I do that there would be, this shit would still be on Fox News. People would be being, hung out to dry. It would be way more sensationalized than it is by the left right now. I honestly think that the left-wing media, whatever you want to call it, has been very gentle when it comes to the January 6th stuff. Just the Capitol storming, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've been weak, and I think they've been gentle. And I think it goes along with everything that I've seen from Democrats. Like, why don't we make stuff up to be upset about? And that, that's why I'm saying I'm in favor of the over sensationalization of that bill, because we got to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to find something to be upset about. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Republicans control the narrative by being outraged over whatever the Fox News makes up at the time.
I want to
because
stop
then
you right
everybody signs on.
I want to stop you right there and say horseshit.
Come on.
So
Come
there
on.
are people who are being held right now under no habeas corpus, no trial, no nothing. They didn't get to see a judge. They're just being held in Washington, D.C. Prisoners. It's been that way for the last 6-7 months. So they're in jail right now. Okay? They've already been in jail longer than any of the people who rioted in Portland.
Where are you getting that information?
The fucking prison records in Portland and the guys that are in jail right now giving interviews. Look it up.
Okay. They're giving interviews from jail. They haven't been able to see a judge like regular Americans. Okay. Sorry. Almost like the guys that wait in fucking Dallas for 3 years to see a judge. It's weird.
Yeah, and that shit should be illegal.
Weird how that shit happens to regular people, but now it's happening to white folks. It's crazy.
So here's Senator Elizabeth Warren saying, like, hey, this shit isn't right. Solitary confinement is a form of punishment that is cruel and psychologically damaging. So these dudes are being kept.
So you're saying a Democrat is saying that it's not right?
Since January 6th.
So you're saying that a Democrat is saying it's not right?
What?
A Republican would never fucking do that.
No, I'm saying it
Republican
is not
would
right.
never
It's not
do
about
what
the
you're talking
whataboutism.
about.
Shut the
The
fuck
article-
up about that. I don't care.
You pulled up.
I don't
the article
care
you
about
pulled
your
up
whataboutism.
has. It's not whataboutism. It's what I was talking about. It's exactly what I was talking about.
So when I say it's both
A
bad,
Republican
you
would
start talking about the Republicans.
That because a Democrat is saying this is wrong. A Republican would not do that. Democrats are weak. That's what I'm saying.
The Republicans were pissed
That's
off because
not
the
a
people were
whataboutism.
being released without being charged. If we're talking
That's
about
not what I'm
events,
talking about.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the Democrat at the top of that article that's saying this is wrong. We shouldn't be holding these people. And I'm saying that a Republican would never do that. They would never go against the party. They would never say that holding these people is wrong without
False.
habeas corpus.
False. Rand Paul's done that all the time.
Guantanamo Bay.
Which is signed off every fucking year by both parties. So it has nothing to do with party affiliates on that one.
Right. Republicans don't go against it.
Neither do the Democrats in Guantanamo Bay. Obama fucking
They don't go
staffed
against
that
the
shit
party.
up. So Obama increased incarceration at Guantanamo Bay. And you're going to sit here and talk about fucking party politics? Give me a break.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Republicans don't go against the party. Look what happened to Liz fucking Cheney. They don't go against the party.
The fuck does that have to do with improper incarceration? Illegal incarceration?
The fuck does that have to do with what I was talking about earlier? The point of this is that Republicans own the outrage. That was what I was talking about.
Which is bullshit. That's bullshit.
It's not bullshit.
It is bullshit. You got one fucking network on cable television, Fox News, that you can point to and say, look at these people. And what?
One American News Network, One American News Network, and Newsmax.
So you got are these cable provided networks?
Yes,
normal.
I got them on my regular basic cable fucking package.
Okay, so now you have.
I can go watch them right now.
So now you have three. The two came up in the last 3 years? It was recently added in the last 2 or 3 years.
What's your point?
You got 8 fucking networks otherwise that own the outrage.
What's your point?
You got the comedy joke man at the end of the day talking about the funny things.
Who controls the fucking narrative? Look at the fucking CRT shit. Republicans own that narrative. They made this shit up. And they own the fucking narrative. They're passing legislation and laws on some made-up shit. Yes,
they're weak on January 6th because they don't want to look too closely at who was doing it. They don't want to look too closely at the police officers who opened the doors and said, hey, it's okay to come in. They don't want to look too closely at Mr. Johnny Sullivan, who was a paid FBI informant, who was on video camera riling people up. They don't want to look too closely at it. They don't want to look too closely at the FBI's 12 of the 18 conspirators for the Governor Whitmer kidnapping shit because they were in it. They don't want to look too closely at it. So you can complain about them not wanting to be tough on it, but it's because they're scared to really open the door and take a look. They want to have a weak narrative to just talk about these things and point out how bad it is. They don't actually want to look at it. They don't want to know.
What's that got to do with
believe otherwise is just simple naivety.
What's that got to do with outrage? What's that got to do with, again, the outrage?
You're saying,
narrative?
Why aren't they more pissed off about it? And I'm telling you, they don't want to pull the curtain back too far. That's what it has to do with outrage. So, when the Republicans are all pissed off about it, they want that door open. They want to take a look. So yeah, they're pissed off. They're outraged. They control that because they feel that they have the power to do so. They want to take a look. They want you to look closely at it. And the fact that Democrats don't in that case should be pretty telling why they're weak, as you say.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What 20 FBI informants?
Look up the informants on Governor Whitmer's kidnapping case. There was 18 people involved. 12 of them were government informants. So of the 18, 6 are being charged. Now, used to be that would be called entrapment. when a law enforcement officer coerces you to do something you wouldn't normally do.
Yeah. What would you want to look at there?
While you are, what do you mean? What would I want to look at there?
Like what in that, like what would you want to look into on that?
Well, if over 50% of the conspirators are government agents, wouldn't it be a government plot?
Okay. There are 14 that were arrested. So apparently more than 18. Because if 12 were informants, 14 were arrested. That's more than 18. And the FBI set them up? I don't understand. Do they not make their own choices?
Let's see here. At least 12 were FBI informants in the alleged scheme. According to BuzzFeed, lawyers for the man alleged that the informants and the undercover agents gained the confidence of the defendant, stirred their anger at Whitmer, and encouraged them to conspire on the plot, even going so far as to steering the conversation away from other subjects to how to carry out the kidnapping. Defendants charged. 6 dudes arrested.
So you put the responsibility on the individual, except for in cases like this.
So what's entrapment? What's the definition of entrapment? Is that not? We talked about procedural law. If a police officer or an FBI agent comes to you and convinces you to commit a crime, that is entrapment. Period. So yes, they are still responsible for that, but it's still illegal. Both of them. In all, 14 people have been charged.
So it's the act of tricking someone into committing a crime in order to secure their prosecution. I don't know, man. Did they use overbearing tactics to induce someone to commit a crime? Did they threaten their livelihoods in order to make them commit a crime? Or did they just hype it up?
Would an overbearing tactic being having a solid majority over the smaller group?
It wasn't a solid majority.
You had 12 informants.
You have 14 that weren't.
14 people charged, 6 here. Yeah. I don't know. It's shady as fuck. That's what it is.
I'm just saying.
I don't think it's as straightforward as you're saying it is. And you know what? Like, the semantic argument of were they tricked, were they not? I don't care. Like,
but I mean, what coercion? What coercion did they have to make them go and plot to kidnap the governor?
Guess we'll find out.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like if you make a decision, like, again, you're all about the individual, making individual decisions, and if you mess up, that's on you, right?
Yeah.
So
I have help.
so
my cue,
I'm
though.
just saying. Yeah, no, I hear it. That's
Hey,
my point,
that's
though.
a fair point. I'll consider that. Let me think about that
But
one.
but again, at the end of the day, I mean, it's a prosecution. You're going to have to look into it. But let's say that they want to sensationalize that. I haven't heard about the Governor Whitmer case in forever. Right? Why wouldn't they still be talking about that? I guess that's what bothers me more than anything. Why would they not be bringing that up 100% of the time? Like I say, the mentions I mentioned last week when we were talking about CRT, or 4 weeks ago, when we were talking about CRT, the mentions of CRT on Fox News is at like 1,100 per day or some shit. That I guess that's my point. Is like the mentions is what controls the narrative, and they harp and harp and harp and harp, and every single one of their pundits hits it. And then you go to the YouTube pundits, and they start hitting it because they see it on Fox News. They're getting lots of ticks. This is what we should talk about. Boom, 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 boom. It's pretty. It's a well-oiled machine. That's all I'm saying.
Where's yours?
Huh?
Where's your machine?
I don't know. We have 17 followers.
Well, I mean, our machine is obviously not well oiled and widespread. But I meant more as like the left, right? So like
They're
like
scary.
what are they talking about?
And there's too much fucking infighting. They're arguing over like today. There was a march for the Medicare for All today. And they're all over Twitter complaining that AOC didn't talk about it. You know why AOC didn't talk about it? Because she's out canvassing for Nina Turner in Ohio. She's busy. You pieces of shit.
I laughed at the ridiculousness of BLM getting Boston Pride to shut itself down, close its doors after 50 years.
Can you explain to me how BLM is Marxist?
Yes.
Go ahead.
All right.
And if you say, let me stop you. If you say because a BLM leader said that she was a trained Marxist, I'm going to lose my mind. I want to know how Black Lives Mattering to not get killed has to do with owning the means of production.
It's okay. So let me stop right there. The term that's used is cultural Marxist. Cultural Marxism, right? In Marxist writings, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, right? And in his writings, he talks about bourgeoisie controls the means of production, and they are the root of all the evil and the hardship for the proletariat. And if the proletariat could attain power, all the good that would come from this would be wonderful, and they would never do anything bad because the proletariat is inherently good based upon their structure in this society. As a very general whatever, right? My understanding. If you replace bourgeoisie with white people, and you replace proletariat with non-white, then it's the exact same argument.
No.
That's where it comes from. You don't have to agree with it, but that's what they're talking about.
Though. Because they don't want to get killed by police?
No, that's... Okay, so that inset is where it started. This is the language that's being used to preach it. So, like, there's two different things. There's the movement and the organization, right? One, 100% behind. The other doesn't have the same focus on this mission, right? And that can be
What's
easily
their
seen.
mission?
That can be easily seen from the guy who originally founded the BLM in California, got his fundraising channels shut down by the courts in favor of this newer international version that took the same name. This organization that I'm talking about. So these two things are very separate. Mm-hmm. In my mind, anyway.
So, what is it that BLM wants that makes them Marxist? They want to own the means of production, like people?
No, that's not what I said. They want to own the power structure. It's cultural.
Say that
It's
one more
not
time.
economic.
I lost you.
They want to own the power structure, not the economic markets. In Marxism, as it is, it's to own the means of production. In cultural Marxism, it's to own the cultural power. And so it's not a strict one for one, right? But this word's replaced with this word. This word's replaced with this word. This word's replaced with this word. But it's all the exact same arguments. That's why. And that's my understanding of it.
Okay.
So it's not the means of production, but it's the power and influence, or whatever term you're looking for there. So when people say it's a Marxist ideology, it's specifically the cultural Marxism, throwing race in there, gender, privileged and oppressed classes, same proletariat bourgeoisie arguments. Instead of the means of production, it's the political power type struggle.
Oh. So wanting to be on an even playing field.
But that's not the Marxist argument. It has nothing to do with an even playing field. It's the more of the we need to put the bourgeoisie down in their place.
So
Marxism was
Black
never
Lives
about
Matter
equality.
You think the Black Lives Matter organization wants to put the white people in their place?
I would say some of them do, yes. I won't say the organization as a whole and every member of it, but there are those, yes. And there are the white people that want to be there, you know. You've seen the people walking around with the shackles on their head, and like, I'm sorry, man. Like, there are people who want to be there too. But it exists. Like, that's it. It's not everybody, and it's not the whole thing, but it exists, and that's the argument.
So, okay, so then the people that are the white supremacists, what are they? Like, where do they fit into that? Are they also Marxists? Are they the bourgeoisie that are anti-Marxist? Are they fascist? Like, what?
They'd probably be closer to fascist, I would think. If you were to draw parallels, the same parallels.
Okay. So, very well then.
Because then it's a matter of.
So if someone's a white supremacist, they're definitely pro-fascist. If someone's a member of BLM, they're definitely a Marxist. Because some people are. If you're against BLM, then you're definitely a fascist. Because some people are fascist. That's what I'm gathering.
I mean, that's not the argument I made, but you could take it.
I mean, essentially it is.
Level.
Because if some people in the group are this way, then they're all that way. then the organization as a whole is that, because a couple people are in the organization.
So,
Then,
time out.
then ipso facto.
No. You're making all squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares argument, right? So, like, if a person is in an organization that would like be preaching something from its upper members, right, from its leaders, be preaching a certain doctrine, standing against that doctrine does not automatically put you in the other camp. That is a tribalist mentality and is wrong. To join the group that is strictly on the other side, and say, as you say, the white supremacists, whatever racist organizations you want to put out there, to join that group and then attack this organization, like you are a member of this group. Being outside of this group or being outside of BLM doesn't make you a communist if you support it or whatever else, or a Marxist or whatever other things. Like, I don't accept the broad generalizations in this.
But you do accept the broad generalization that BLM is Marxist because some people believe that they should overthrow the white people.
I said they use Marxist arguments, yes, and that's true.
Okay. What? Because they are the oppressed? That makes it Marxist arguments? Because oppression exists and the person that talks about oppression is Karl Marx, and therefore you use Marxist arguments because you're oppressed?
No, because that's stupid. It's Marxist because it's literally taking the exact same language of the bourgeoisie are the root of all the evils and all the wrongs in the world, and the proletariats are the root of all good in the world, and it's using these exact same arguments, and it's just replaced the words. That's what makes it Marxist. It has nothing to do with oppression. It had nothing to do with any of this other stuff.
It does have to do with oppression.
Well, okay, it does have to do with oppression. That's correct.
That's
but
specifically
it's
what it's about.
As a means to take power. It's a call to action. It's the exact same argument. That's why it's called that.
Again.
And most people don't understand that. I'll grant you.
They hear that
buzzword on Fox News, like this Marxist organization, blah blah blah. Like they don't understand what they're talking about.
Because they feel like they're oppressed. I got you. And by the way, the bourgeoisie are everything that's wrong with the world. Like, just in case you're curious. Yes. And absolutely 100%. I am a class reductionist. I think everything has to do with class. Absolutely. And yeah, I wouldn't say all the proletariat are everything that's right with the world, but it's definitely the bourgeoisie that are everything wrong with the world. 100%. I was reading about this Sun Valley Summit. We can say that for another time, but have you heard of this thing?
No, but I'll have to look it up.
It's like a secret Davos.
A secret, secret Davos, because Davos is pretty secretive.
Yeah, so it's the double secret Davos, because Davos is like they politicize it a little bit more, but the Sun Valley Conference is like all the billionaires of the world get together and decide policy for the world. Yes, they are what's wrong.
Sounds like a good topic for next time. I think
we got it.
Yeah. All right.
We got it here because we can keep going.
Okay.
So let's cut it.
Done.
All right. Thank you for watching this episode of BroPartisan Hacks with Reese and Rob. We really, really appreciate you watching, tuning in. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to us. We're putting out content as often as we can. Share it with your friends. Get it out there. Get our names out there. Also, hit that bell, tap that bell right there so that you can get updated when we put out a new video. Rob and I are trying to pump these videos out as often as we can. However, we both have day jobs, we have families, so our schedules have to line up so that we can make a new video. Speaking of our day jobs, our opinions and views expressed are our own and in no way represent those of our respective employers. Thank you. Thanks again for watching.